to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast, where Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, talk all about how to get certified and practice professionally as a nurse life coach. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast episode. It is Shelby here today, and we are going to be diving in to this topic of how do I be the best nurse coach? I feel like this is a multifaceted question, but part of like the foundational piece here, I think is integrity. And I want to spend some time on that particular piece today. And luckily, you benefit greatly from this part. You're not just doing this part for other people, for your clients, for your coaching skill. This greatly benefits you as well. So I'm excited to maybe bring this potentially new framework into your brain, into your heart this week. And I want to acknowledge that there's like tons of logistical things you can do, right, to be the best, to be the most successful coach ever. Like you can get a certification, you can hire a good coach, you can like check all these boxes that are necessary, right? Talk about that plenty here. You don't need me to reiterate that. But I want to talk to you today about the energy of what it means to like lay a strong, energetic foundation, the vibe of a strong coach, the vibe of a good coach, the essence or the aura of a strong, confident coach. And luckily the secret is pretty simple. It's pretty cut and dry. Lots to untangle, but the highlight version is to be the client that you wish to have. So if this means that you are like, I want a client that shows up on time every week and pays their invoice on time and does their homework, starts with you, boo, starts with you. So being the client that you want to have. And I want to break this down a little bit. So this is important for obviously the standalone reason of like being a good client when you hire a coach, right? Doing the work that you say you're going to follow through on. But as a coach, modeling this behavior and modeling this mindset is something that you're going to want to cultivate, right? Because I think that it shines through as being authentic. It shines through as being real. And your clients can pick up on it. You know, most clients aren't looking, and this is my experience and so many nurse coaches' experience, is that they're not looking to hire another professional that has it all figured out. They're looking to hire somebody who is real, who's authentic, who will listen, who will help them, who will provide new perspectives. They're not looking for someone who has all the answers. The easiest way you can lay this foundation is by being in integrity with yourself here. I'll break this down a little bit more, but I want to right out of the gate mention that you don't have to be perfect. Like you don't have to, like if you're working on setting boundaries with your family, you don't have to like get it right every single time to be a coach that's in integrity, right? I just want to highlight that like be trying to do that, be in your own personal development, be in your own work, have a coach in your corner that can highlight blind spots, like have these protocols in place, have these things in place, have a weekly call every week that you can show up for yourself that allows you to be in integrity here, that allows you to have integration space, that allows you to have support in your corner, and allows you to be honest with yourself of like, is this my best work? Can I be, is there anything that I'm missing here? I also think that outside of like being the client that you want to have is that there's 3 other pretty easy ways to check these boxes, right? Start to lay this foundation to be a strong coach rather than just like know the lingo and read the books, but to actually be and allow this work to infiltrate all levels of your cells. Three ways to do this. Take risks. Being on time and having a high follow through on your goals or your intentions, and again, committing to your own work. So the 3 easy things here are to take risks, be on time, have high follow through, and being committed to your own work. They sound simple, right? I'm sure you can sense that they're much deeper than that. And we'll take a second to break them all down, but let's start with taking risks. So coaching involves like when you are coaching people, we're often encouraging them to find their edge, like dream 2% bigger. We are actively leaving the comfort zone majority of the time. And in order to relate to them, to be relevant to them, to know to have empathy, to understand what they're going through, you need to lead by example here. You need to be actively finding where the edges of your comfort zone are pretty often. And I think that it's easy. This is kind of like a drug for me personally, of like, I find the edge and then I jump off. Love it. I'm an adrenaline junkie by nature. I'm obsessed. And I have to be careful to not constantly get stuck in that loop and to like take some time to be in my new comfort zone and be like, yeah, this is rad. I did this. I created this new comfort zone. I'm good here for a little bit. And then I get a little squirrely and it's like, all right, I know it's time to find my new edge and to like create the new thing. But meeting a coach or having a coach that doesn't actively pursue growth or pursue taking a risk, we're not able to meet our clients where they're at all. We're not able to relate. We're not able to understand. And it may even go unsaid, but clients will be able to feel it. They'll be able to feel like you don't understand, even if you're saying the right things. And I mean, taking risks for yourself, it's important to promote growth, to promote learning, to build resiliency, to build confidence. We build confidence by taking action. Hear me. You build confidence by taking action. And it encourages you to get creative and to be innovative, right? All of these things are great, important qualities to have as a coach. And so if by taking risks, if being committed to the edge of your comfort zone and being curious about it and questioning it and expanding it, you benefit from that. And so does your clients, right? I remember back in 2021 when I had my heart surgery, that perspective of having a really scary surgery, having to confront my own mortality for like a year while waiting for that surgery was one of the biggest assets I brought to my coaching containers during that season. And I didn't often have to bring it up. My clients knew what I was navigating. I had to loop them in for a multitude of reasons of like, I might have to bow out of this container to have emergent surgery at any time. Right now, this is the date, but this could change. And it really brought, I didn't have to like announce it every day of like, hey, you could die tomorrow. What are you going to do today? But it was this energy I brought to the table, this bigger perspective I brought to the table, this urgency that I brought to the table through my story, through my journey, through my own work I was doing at the time with my coaches that was really relevant to my clients. You know, they'd be like, you know, Shelby, I got scared doing the thing, but then I realized I'm not having heart surgery next month. So I just did it anyway. And you know, it wasn't that scary. It was a really cool time to be coaching because I was so flippin' scared, and to like see how people could use my story, my journey, and like for the benefit of themselves. That was really cool. I wouldn't choose necessarily to do that again, but the silver lining of that season was definitely that. Also, too, whenever, you know, we don't really share a lot of our stories with clients. We don't give a lot of advice. But to be able to speak to someone who is taking a risk, who's quitting a job, who's leaving a marriage, who is starting their own business, who is applying for the raise, you can be like, yeah, I've been there. I know that it is so scary. And I also know that you can do it. You're going to survive. You're going to be okay. I know what this feels like. And you're going to be all right. And I know it because I've done it and I'm all right. So you're like able to speak from this place of truth rather than having to make it up, you know, or fake it till you make it. Also, too, you live by example. So like by showing people how to take risks, we demystify it a little bit. We make it more attainable for other people. My first business coach would often share her income with us that she made every month. And every time her numbers were so like wild to me. And I was just like, well, if you can do it, I can do it. Like if you can take the risk and do the thing and host the event, I can do that. Like I can do it too. And I just can't understate how far that goes. Like being a role model as a coach Again, not perfect, but in the flow, in the action, being committed is very, very important. All right. So again, in the same vein of like being the client you want to have, be on time and following through on your word. So being on time, being punctual from like a practical standpoint builds trust with your clients, reliability with your clients, right? Or at least communicating when you're going to be late. Again, not perfect, but being true with your word. And it also sets a standard for your clients to follow. You know, we get coached a lot of people through coaching for free. And when people are coaching for free, people are late, people are showing up in the drive-through line, people are showing up with kids running in the background. And like, sometimes that's life and sometimes that's resistance. And by you showing up and being consistent and being reliable, you can be like, hey, I set aside this hour for me and you. And I want to check in that you are still committed to this hour. Is there anything we can do for next week to get you here on time so that we can make the most of our hour together, right? And how you do this will be kind of how you do most things or all things. So keeping the promise to yourself of being on time, keeping the promise to yourself of following through on your word, right? Because without action, words are just words to yourself, to others, to clients, to family, to friends. You can say anything that you want. You can know the right language. You can say the right thing, but without following through with your actions, completely disconnected, right? So if you tell your client, yes, I'm going to be on time management is important to me, and then you show up 15 minutes late to every call, not great, right? Not great. You are being on time and following through on your word are micro promises to yourself. And every time we get really comfortable letting ourselves down over time. So it is important to have a standard to show up for. I want to share a little bit of a story with you of sometimes I've done this really well, and sometimes I've been where I dropped the ball. So early in our business, I remember Laura and I, one of the few times we've been in person, we were at dinner and we were talking about our first big retreat that we were going to be hosting. We're trying to find a venue for it and trying to be like, where do we host? All the things. And I knew of this venue in Austin and we just had no idea what it cost. We're at the dinner table at this restaurant. And I was like, well, we need to know like what these places cost. And she's like, yeah, we do. Laura is very spreadsheet minded, and thank God, because I'm not. But in her mind, she was like, let's create the spreadsheet. Let's track all of this stuff. And me, I just like, while we're eating chips and salsa, pulled out my phone and emailed the retreat venue and was like, hey, can you give me a quote for 60 people on this weekend? And she paused in that moment and was like, I love that about you. I just love how you take action, how you say something out loud and you follow through on it. So I can do this really well. And recently I dropped the ball hard, team. I dropped the ball hard on the last like chunk of this certification I was in. And I've had a little bit of health stuff going on. It's all settling now, but just with pregnancy and things like that. And I had to miss the last class of this certification. And of course, there's paperwork to turn in. There's like logs to turn in. And I just completely forgot. And the facilitator of the course messaged me and was like, hey, I haven't heard from you. It's kind of a red flag. Like, do you want to finish this course? Loop me in. What's going on? And I completely forgot about it. Completely forgot. I had pretty good reasons to forget, but I still forgot, right? And so instead of coming up with 100 excuses, I responded to that email and just owned it. Of like, I'm so sorry. This is not a reflection of how seriously I took this certification. I had some stuff going on, provided a little context, and then said, like, this is not an excuse. I take full responsibility for not completing the course. Do I still have time? Can I get it to you by Friday? And luckily, it all worked out to be fine. And I followed through on my word for Friday. But like, I want to highlight that like, that was not intentional, at least to my conscious mind. It was an accident. And I am proud of the way that I was able to close that loop and finish that certification. So definitely still not a perfect human after all this time, even now. But most of the time, my goal is to follow through on my word and to be on time. All right, team. So lastly, in the vein of like being committed to your work, what does this mean? I want to make it very, very clear because I think that like being committed to your work, your personal work, being committed to your own work with your coach, like drinking the Kool-Aid. I know it can feel a little culty here of like, you have to have a coach to be a coach, and you don't have to have a coach all the time. I don't have a coach all the time. I have a coach most of the time. I don't have a coach all the time. But like, this is industry standard for helpers. I think nurses and doctors might be the only people that get away with not having support in their corner. But like, if you talk to therapists or psychologists, I mean, a part of their certification process is to be, my friend is a counselor. She called it supervision, to where when she was getting her clinical hours done, she had to go to a therapist to have space to decompress. It is pretty intense to hold emotional and mental and spiritual space for someone, whether you're coaching 4 hours a week or whether you're coaching 40 hours a week. It's a lot to hold, right? It's a lot to hold. People are vulnerable. And I just want to like say how abnormal it is to do this for a living. And it's likely going to trigger you. It's likely going to upset you. It's likely going to make you sad. Hearing other people's stories, like those are all such normal reactions, normal responses. And you having space, you having guidance, you having someone who can offer different perspectives is key to the longevity of your practice. And so yeah, of course, it shows dedication to your personal professional growth. It does all these things. It enhances your credibility, all of the surface level stuff. But it also fuels your integrity. Because if you are just reading, like anybody can read a personal development book, anybody can go to a weekend seminar and learn all the lingo and say all the right things. But there is an embodiment that needs to happen so that like the absorption of information into your mind makes it into your heart. And you'll see this sometimes, especially online. It can be so easy to say the right thing, but then when you meet someone in person, you're like, something's off there. Like, I don't know what it is, but like something doesn't add up for me. You know, I thought X, Y, and Z, and that can be perceptions and bias, but I trust that you understand what I'm trying to say here. But like, how many personal development books have you read over the past 2 years? And how much of that do you actually practice in your day-to-day life for the stuff that resonates? You don't have to incorporate everything. I don't think that's the point. But if we're not moving slow enough, if we're not being reflective enough to incorporate that stuff into your own life, then we're just like an information Rolodex. There's no, and I want to not understate that like people can feel that about you too. You can say all the right things, but there will be a lack of depth to your coaching that I know all of you so desperately want to cultivate. I know every single coach wants this. And I just want to encourage you that like this takes time. The integrity part takes time. The embodiment takes time, and chipping away at it slowly is important. All right, team. So let me know what lands for you today. I know that this is kind of like a high level topic with really, really specific examples. And I wanted to bring this to the podcast earlier than later, because I think it's easier to kind of have in your brain, have in your sphere to chew on as you do your learning, as you coach, as you learn this new skill. I think that it can be really helpful to just keep all of this in mind. These are like concepts I wish I would have known sooner. So let me know what lands, let me know what resonates, let me know if any of this is confusing. I would love to clarify. And I think where I want to end it on is like, it is okay for this to take time, and like not 30 days. It's okay for this to take 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. The being in integrity, embodiment, you know, all of these things, give yourself lots of runway. Again, perfection is not the goal, but effort is the goal. Trying is the goal. Moving the needle 1 centimeter forward is the goal, or maybe 50 centimeters forward can also be the goal. But just being committed, forward action, regular breaks and pauses, that's the goal. All right, team. Lots of love. See you next time. Bye.